no idea what it is or ever seen it. Awesome. Well, that works out really good. So we'll kind of a good mix here. So what this is going to be, how many people here have ever built a dashboard in Google Data Studio? All right, so we got 2 in here. Okay, so what we're going to be doing in this talk, we're going to kind of run through. We're going to talk about how to build a really a decent dashboard. At the end, I'm going to actually give you a couple of the templates that I've built so that you will be able to actually jump in yourself and either build your own or grab one of our templates and work off of one of those. Sometimes that's easier to start with one of those and kind of modify it for your needs, and then as you get more comfortable, then diving in and building your own dashboard. So real quick, first who I am. I'm Chris Edwards. I live up in Central Florida, up in the, just north of Orlando. I'm a website developer. I've been doing that for like 19 years. I'm not a Joomla developer, so don't hurt me. I'm a WordPress developer for about 7 years, and I do a lot of the WordCamp conferences and stuff with WordPress. Google Analytics, I have been doing that for 13, 14 years. Anybody here remember what Google Analytics used to be called? Urchin Analytics? A couple people. So that's how long I've been doing it. I used it when I was Urchin, before Google bought it. That's why actually in your code it says UA dash. That's from way back when. I've been a digital marketer, doing SEO, all that kind of fun stuff for about 12 years, and I've been like a data nerd my entire life. Like, no joke, I would track gas mileage, anything I could track, I want to turn into graphs and make into something fun just because that's what I like to do. So, to dive in, we're going to first just talk about what is Google Data Studio. This is one of my favorite tools I think Google offers right now. Google Data Studio basically allows you to build dashboards for any kind of data that's out there. It allows you to visualize your data. It makes it really easy. It's drag and drop, super easy to use. Anybody can use it. You don't need to be a designer. You don't need to be a developer. Anybody can go in there. If you're able to use Google Docs where you just drag and drop things in, that's how easy this is to use. And you'll see that in a minute. Here's what you can connect with Google Data Studio. Right off the top, those are the free ones across the top. Those are pretty much all Google products, right? You also have a bunch of other community connectors that are built. Some of these are free, some of these are paid, but this allows you to connect things like Facebook ads, Harvest, Facebook, Stripe, LinkedIn ads, Twitter, AdRoll. There's a whole bunch of everything you can think of. There's a lot of connectors out there that allow you to connect all these different things that are made by third parties. So it's really cool because you can pull all that data in. You notice the other thing with the Google Sheets and CSV being in there, that also allows you to basically pull any data you want because you can put it into Google Sheets. And you can create any kind of spreadsheets you want that you can then pull into as a dashboard as well. The other really neat thing is you can also connect to databases. You can connect it to BigQuery. You can connect to any of these other places that you may be, any other data warehousing solutions you have out there. You can connect to those to pull any of that data together to create these things. So what do these dashboards kind of look like? Well, here's a whole bunch of them. So you'll see in this picture here, we've got AdWords, you've got Google My Business. That looks like a paid one that's mixing a bunch of different paid searches together. Google AdSense over in one, and then there's something over in the corner, I'm not sure what that one is, paid traffic. So there's a bunch right there, and you notice how they all look custom. They're all different. You can have your own design for them. Here's some other examples. Someone actually pulling for a YouTube channel. And then they designed it to look, I think it looks really neat, you know, it's all branded, it looks really good, and it shows what's going on with their YouTube channel, right? And then over to the right, that's a Google Analytics one. That's pulling in their Google Analytics, showing the data that they want to see. You also have, for example, here's a Google AdWords one over to the left. This one's very similar to the one I use for a lot of my clients. And then over to the right, you have Google Search Console being pulled in as well. And then you can go as far as this is using Google Sheets. Here's some of the stuff that's using Google Sheets and some others that were connected through a custom API, building their own connectors to pull some information in for different data. So like this world population, TV ad performance, a whole bunch of that different stuff can all be pulled in. You can create these really beautiful looking dashboards that you can stick up on a TV, you can print out, you can do any of these type of things with them. So that's all the static images. What I'm going to do real quick, and I always hate this part because this is the part that could go wrong. We're going to try and do a live demo. All right. So this is my analytics, Google Analytics one. This is actually pulling sample data from Google's store. But you'll be able to see inside here, we're able to pull in all this information. You can hover over items and see them inside of here. You can hover over the graphs. You can see different information within those. And then you have all the, you can actually scroll inside here, see all the different pages and other information is being pulled in. But here's the cool thing. We can also change our date ranges. So we can say we want to do maybe all of this year and hit apply. And then right off the bat, automatically everything is going to update within our dashboard. We also have, in this one, I'm pulling in acquisition channels. So these are also showing all the different acquisition channels coming in. E-commerce. So pulling in all that data, and so we can see different goal completions and things along those lines. And then of course technology, which is pulling in the technology reports from Google Analytics, there it goes, as well. So you kind of see how this creates a nice interactive dashboard. These things can actually be, what's really cool about these is you can embed these as an iframe inside of somewhere. You can print them off, you can put them onto a TV. You can do a lot of different things. You can also share these, so you can lock it down so that nobody can access them. And it's just like Google sharing permissions. You just go in, share it with somebody who you want to have access. You can give them access just to view, or give them access to edit and make changes if they want as well. The other cool thing is if you give access for someone to view, they do not have to have your credentials to whatever source you're pulling this data from. So if you're pulling information from Facebook ads, you're pulling some information from access goes through your credentials to connect to those and does not give them those access. This is just a quick example. This is a sample Google AdWords one. So it's pulling in different information. You see costs and all that coming across here. So you can see kind of how you can lay it out differently, change colors. Really kind of have fun with these and make them your own. Jump back into the presentation here. So, now I've showed you what a dashboard is. Are there any questions on what a dashboard in Data Studio is? Awesome. Then we'll go ahead and move on here.
I got one question.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Different question, but so it was showing like the other platforms besides Google that you can pull in their data. So like say I collect data on my site, can I use that data or would I?
You would need to build a connector, a custom connector with, and build it for, and Google has some information on how to develop them. They are a little complex to develop, but I believe you can build them in, I think it's React. And so you can build it with React and you can actually connect your own data source if you want to build your own connectors.
Okay.
Or if there's a way you're able to export it to Google Sheets, then you can just pull it in easily to Google Sheets. So for creating a report, first thing you're going to do is we're going to log in to create a blank report. So when you go to, I believe it's datastudio.google.com, or just Google search, datastudio.google.com. When you go to that site, or just search for Data Studio, it's going to ask you to log in. So you want to log in with the Google user that has access to the Analytics account or the Google Ads account that you're going to connect to. With all the other connectors, you can log in with whatever, but with the Google connectors, they have to use the logins for that account. So you need to make sure whatever account you're logging in has the ability to read and access those different items that you want to pull in. So whether it be a Google Sheet, it needs to have access to that Google Sheet. If it's Google Analytics, it has access to that Google Analytics account. Same with Google Ads, it needs to have access to Google Ads. Once you've logged in, you'll get a little thing that gives you some sample reports. You can create a new report. I'm also going to give you some URLs at the end here for the different, those two dashboards I just showed you. You'll be able to download those and be able to play with those with your own data if you want as well. But what we're going to do for this example is we're going to go ahead and click on that little plus sign and create ourselves a new blank template. And then this is the most important step. And it seems like it wouldn't be an important step, and it doesn't need to be said, but this is where I actually screw up the most on this. Name it. Up at the top, it's almost hidden, and this is like really zoomed in this picture. It's really small up there, and it does not ever tell you to name your report. What will happen is you'll create this report, and it'll just say Untitled Report. And it does not add a number to it or anything. When you're finally done, you'll literally have, if you've made like 6 or 7 reports, they'll all just say Untitled Report. And that's all you'll ever see. You'll have to literally open each one to see what it is. So, yes?
Is there a preferred browser to use?
You can use Chrome. Chrome would be, probably the best one to use, but it works. I think it works fine in Firefox as well. I haven't tested it in Edge or IE, but it seems like it works in. I haven't had an issue with it working in Firefox or Chrome, and I don't know about Safari. So go ahead and make sure you name that report. Obviously, it'll get really difficult later on going back and trying to find those to rename them, so make sure you do that step first. When I name them, also just give an idea, unfortunately, Google is still probably in beta, and one of the frustrating things is they haven't created a file hierarchy yet, so literally it just dumps all the files down in a list. There's no folders, there's no folder system or anything like that. So if you're working with clients or something, and you have multiple clients you're working with, I usually put the client name, dash, and then I'll put Google Analytics dashboard or Google paid dashboard or something like that. So that way it's easier to find and make sure I put the client name inside of there. So the next thing you want to do is add your data source, or add your first data source in. So this is where we're going to add in whichever we're trying to connect to, which could be like Google Analytics or Google Ads or anything along that case. So what we're going to do is hit create new data source. And just so you all know, at the end of this, I'm going to make the slides available, and I'm also going to give you a link. I literally wrote all of this into a 10,000 word blog article that has every single screenshot all the way down. So I'll give you a link to that as well, so that if you're trying to do this later, you can follow along with that as well. So we're going to add our first data source. You'll see there's different data sources in here. Data source was those different connectors we were talking about. So that's where we're talking about being able to connect to any of these different sources. You'll see there's some of the free ones on there. You got MySQL, PostgreSQL, and you got the different Google Sheets, Analytics. You'll see all the different ones that are in there. And then you'll see ones like Facebook and all that. Check those ones out too. Usually those are through a third party. And they may have a fee attached to them through that third party, so just double check whichever other one you're using. But for this one, we're going to use Google Analytics, so we're going to select that one. We're going to go ahead and authorize it. And then once we authorize it, we're going to go ahead and do the first thing again, we're going to name it. This is the same thing. This is the step I always also miss. If I opened up my account and showed you, you all see there's just a bunch of them that just literally say Google Analytics is the name, and I don't know whose Google Analytics they are. So you want to go up there, first thing you do is rename it. So this one, for example, we named Demo Google Analytics. That way I knew that this is for the demo account that Google has. And then what we're going to do is select which account it is. So I selected Demo account, Google Merchandise Store, Master View. So you're going to select all the way down to the view. These are just within your analytics account. You'll see it'll show you all analytics accounts you have access to. I had a whole bunch in there, but I picked the one that I wanted this one to connect to. And then when we're done, we're going to go over to that corner. We're going to hit connect. All right, and then once we hit connect, we're going to go ahead and just add this to our report. This is going to show you all the dimensions and metrics it's going to be pulling in. You have the ability of updating some of these types to be page view or all that, but with Google Analytics connector, all those are already classified and set up right, so you don't really need to bother with that. If you're pulling in from one of the third-party connectors, there may be a field they're pulling in that they're pulling in as a number field and technically it's a currency field or it's a percentage field or something like that. So you may want to change those, but for the most part, you can skip this step and just hit add to report because you can always change it later. And I think I'll show you that later on how to do that, but you can change that later if you need to. So we're going to hit add to report. And now we're done. And so now we're going to have this bar across the top. So I have not updated this screenshot. They did change this very recently. This bar across the top is now under one button that you click and it drops down. It's still there, still the same icons, but now it's just a drop down instead of a long bar across the top because they added a few more charts to these. So they, you know, it doesn't fit in there anymore. So now it's just a drop down. But you'll click the chart drop down and then you'll see all of these pop up. These are different types of charts we can add into our dashboard. So here's the different types you can add. We've got time series, bar charts, combo charts, pie charts, tables, geomaps, scorecards, which are my favorite, by the way. You'll see any dashboard I build has tons of scorecards in them. Scorecards, scatter chart, bullet chart, area chart, pivot tables. A whole bunch of different types of charts and graphs can be pulled in, which allows you a lot of flexibility in what you're setting up. And with all of these, you can change the colors, you can change the look of them. You can really customize these to be your own. So, how do we add one of these? Well, it's as simple as drag and drop. Basically, you go up here to the top, click the item you want to add. It'll drop it right inside your chart. It used to be you could drag it from the top and put it anywhere. Now, when you click it, it drops it like right up in the top corner, and then you got to move it to where you want. It's a little annoying. I wish they'd go back to the old method because when you got a really long report, it always pops back up at the top, so you got to scroll up and grab it and pull back down. Hoping it's been suggested that they go back to that method. We'll see if Google listens. You know how Google is with that kind of stuff. They'll do it their way. But as of right now, when you click it, it'll pop in up at the top, and then you can kind of drag it, size it. It's basically like any picture element you drop into a Google Word document. You can just size it and move it around as you need to. So in this case, we're going to drop in that time series. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set up that time series chart. So over on the left side of the screen, or right side of the screen, you'll see we have a bunch of different things to select under data. And so the parameters we want to put in there is you're going to have it already connected to your data source. Make sure it's connected to the right data source. This is that data source we added earlier. It's demo Google Analytics. And then what we have is we have the different dimensions. So this is going to be based on the time dimension. Usually it'll automatically pick the best dimension to sort by, but you can pick something else if you want. So play around with that if you want and see what's in there. And then you put your metrics. So we're going to pull in sessions and page views for this example. And then we're going to just kind of leave everything else default for now. And then we can add other things. So like, for example, adding a date range filter. So all the charts, all the different charts we add work similar to that one we just did, where you change different elements in there. The one that we actually walked through on the blog article that I'm going to give you guys, because it would take way too long for me to go through every single chart and adding every single chart. We'll actually go through every single one of those charts, adding each one of those. But all of them add the exact same way as that last chart did, where it's going to show the dimensions over on the side, and they'll change based off of what kind of graph we put in there. So in this case, now we're going to talk about adding our date range filters. These are really important because you want to add it so that people can go in and they can change their date and they can pick what date range they want to see by. It's literally a little button you click over there, it drops in a box, and there you go. Now you've got your date range in there. And one of the cool things about it, actually zoom in, I don't. Over in the properties, over in the right side, you'll see under data you have default date range. You can add, by default it's automatically the last 30 days. But what you can do is you can set that to be a default date range. So if you're setting this up for a client who wants to always pull the previous month's data in, or the last 7 days as a normal default, you can set that to be that normal default. So automatically when they load this dashboard up, it will have that normal default amount, but then they can go and change it to whatever they want to look at other things as well. And if they hit refresh, it'll go back to that normal default again. This is what this looks like. When they click that, it opens up and they can actually come in here and they can pick their dates, which I showed you on our other one when we're doing the live example. I showed you those dates as well. So adding in text headers is literally, it's just an item that you can drop in there. So you can now I always use these instead of using the headers that are built into the graphs, because these allow me to have a little bit more style and define how it looks. So you can add in your text, you can add in your images, so you can put in a logo, for example, which is great for branding. So we'll often put the logo in for our clients. Usually it's their logo, or or maybe it's the logo of the company they're working with. We'll put it up inside the corner up there. And then you have the ability to do a lot of styling. So there's two types of styling with Google Data Studio. You have global styling, and then you have each element styling. So global styles allow you to basically define at a high level what you want everything to look like. So this is going to be what the default text is going to look like when you drop it in, your default bar colors, your default graph colors, all the different pieces will be preset, so you can, when you're building your stuff, most things are branded and the same. You have the ability of changing fonts, canvas size. You'll see down here in canvas size, you're not defined. By default, it opens up at 1200 by 900. You can make it as long as you want, as wide as you want. It's however you want to make them, you can make these dashboards. Element styles, this is where we actually dive into each individual graph and so forth. This gives us abilities to change like row colors, or if it's a pie chart, you can actually change to make it either a pie or a donut chart. A couple different things just to kind of give you some visual, to be able to clean it up and make it match what they want. But you can actually do that on each element as well. So this is where you can really fine tune, especially with tables and charts, you really kind of dive in. What does it look like? Does it have pagination? Do you want to have a certain amount of items in each table? Do you want to limit it to only show the top 5 and then they have to go to a new page? Well, different things like that you can add in with just element styles in general. So with styling, you can see kind of how this is kind of a cool shift here. This is the same exact thing, I just applied a little bit of style to it. I did about 10 minutes of playing around with the styles to get this to look like that. And you can see that if you were showing this off to a client, which one would they prefer to see? Which one looks more professional? Which one's going to stand out a little bit better for them? I think the second one is definitely the true demo experience over here. So, so we talked earlier about sharing. Sharing is as simple as any other Google document. If you use Google Docs, you'll see that these work literally the same way that anything else does. You can share within your organization, you can share with anybody else, you can make it where anybody can see it who has the link. You can actually make it public. Be very careful if you're making it public, because if it is your private data and you make it public, anybody can see it. So be very careful when you are making an item public, or if you're making it private with a link but still handing the link out. Be very careful on that side too, because anybody who gets a hold of that link can come and see that data. And I thought I had it in this one, but I don't think I do. The other thing that's really cool about Google Data Studio, you can actually add Google Analytics onto your Google Data Studio. So you can actually see what people are coming to your site, or who's coming to your site, where they're coming from, and everything by putting your own Google Analytics on there. Now, a lot of times it's, why would I do that? I can tell you as an agency owner, when we're putting stuff like this together, we like to see, are our customers actually using our tools that we're spending all this time putting together? So we actually will add a Google Analytics code on there so we can see, are clients looking at this? Are our clients even paying attention to any of this data? Do they know what's going on? And the other reason is we work with a large hospital network who has all their website data, and they have preferred to have it where they share via the link that, in theory, if somebody gets a hold of that link, anybody can go there. So we know where the marketing team's head office is, and so we actually have analytics on there, because if I start seeing hits coming from places that are not where their head office is, then I know that that link may have been compromised, and we may want to go ahead and basically create a new dashboard, because that's the only way to change the link. Copy that dashboard over to a new dashboard and then reshare that link out because the other link somehow was compromised. Again, I highly suggest you don't open up data that way, but that's how they preferred it. So it doesn't have anything that's violates HIPAA or anything like that, so it's still it was still fine. It's just their web analytics are visible to anybody who has that link. So here is our dashboards. We have two of them linked up here. The one is the Google Analytics for e-commerce. So if you have an e-commerce site, you can grab that one. The other one is just for analytics and then pulls in goals instead of e-commerce. So to install them, all you're going to do is download those dashboards, go in, click make a copy, and then it will ask you to connect your data source. And so you connect your data source, which will be your Google Analytics account. So you can connect that. What I suggest to do, if you're just going to get started playing with these, go download these dashboards and just kind of play around with them. You know, make a copy of them, put them on onto your site, and then move them around, add other charts in there, change the chart types. Just kind of have fun with them and see what you can make out of it. And take those dashboards and turn them into your own. And you'll be able to see kind of how easy it is to use this. Try and work on doing some of the theming elements and stuff like that, and just brand it and just see what you can make. Or if you just want to use it as a quick start for any of your clients, feel free to. I actually use these same exact templates for a lot of our new clients that are coming on board. We will just pull one of these and start with this and then make a couple changes to make it work for them. And I'll come back to this slide, or on the end I think I have the...
So is it any type of data, or is it limited to certain types?
These dashboards are just pulling Google Analytics. But you can connect it to any of those data, anything that has a data connector.
Any type of data?
Any of them that have a data connector you can connect to.
Okay.
So just gotta look through
Or
the,
your own.
or you can make your own through an API. There's some documentation on Google how to do that. So real quick to talk about what you just asked about, community connectors. Google versus community connectors. So you have all of the Google product connectors, and then you also have a bunch of community ones. These are a couple of the ones out there. These are some of the companies that create community ones. Actually, we're in there because we've created a couple. Like we've created one for Harvest. We're creating one right now for WooCommerce. It should be launching soon, which is a WordPress shopping cart. We're working on a couple other ones for like BigCommerce and a few other solutions out there as well that you could also use, Gex, things like that, to pull the data from those ones in. And then you can create your own. If you want to get into that code and work on doing that, you can create your own connectors as well for anything that has an API basically. All right. Over here I have the slides for you to download. Sorry about the link. That's from an old WordCamp link, but the link will still work. And then the step-by-step article, if you go to that short link, it'll redirect you on the blog to the page that actually has all the steps with pictures through every single step to build that demo dashboard that we just saw. It'll actually walk you through building the entire one. And actually, I'm going to be launching a video really soon for that as well, so I'll post it to that page when I launch the video as well. All right, so we have about 10 minutes or so, so I want to open the floor up for questions. Yes, sir.
Could this be hooked up to a log file directly from your server?
You can hook it up to you can import a CSV. To actually have it go to your server and pull from your server, you'd have to pull the CSV file down and put it onto Google's.
So it's assuming it's going to work with static data in a static data set rather than something that's live.
Yes, you would have to find a way to pull that over into like Google Sheets, which you might be able to do through not IFT. What's the other API connector? Zapier. You might be able to do it through Zapier. Have Zapier pull that data over into Google Sheets from the log file, and then you can go ahead and pull it into Google Data Studio. Other questions? Jen?
I noticed there's a MySQL connector.
Mm-hmm.
So you can connect directly to a MySQL database. How does it know? And you may not know the answer to this. Sorry. How does it know if it it looks at a MySQL database and it sees there's 100 rows and then tomorrow there's 200 rows. How is it gonna start to index that data so it can see like over time that new rows have been added or data has changed? Like we're looking at, you know, number of rows in that database over time. Is it just pulling a live view every single time? How does it know what rows are there, what rows are added, and all that kind of stuff?
It'll pull it from, it should pull it from the time dimension. So like, I would think it'd be each database entry based off the time that the database entry was created.
So we'd have to have like an existing column on that database that has like a date added, the overtime
Yes,
standard.
yes, you would have to. And that is one thing with Data Studio is everything's driven by date for the most part. So if you don't have date in there, there are a couple, I was working with a connector for one of the phone tracking companies, and they don't have dates pulled over from their stuff, and it was literally, it didn't matter, it would error out if you try to put a date range in there. So you could pull rows in that don't have that without a date, it would just, you wouldn't be able to use any kind of chart that uses date as a filter.
Cool,
So-
thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
How would you compare this to like a lot of the reporting dashboards that are on the market, the DataBox and agency analytics and products like that?
So we use, we also play with HC Analytics, which is another one out there that does similar. One of the things that this does is this allows, I think, a little more customization because you're not using an out-of-the-box product that they have. So this allows you to pull any kind of data source that exists. It is a newer product, so there's not a ton. The data sources are catching up. There's not a ton, but there's a ton being added each month. But like looking at some of those other ones, they're kind of predefined on what you can add for them. This allows you to mix and match and kind of do a lot more with it and pull in. But it's one of those, play with it, see if it works, see if it gives you what you're looking for. If it doesn't, and the other solutions give you those. This one is free to use. A lot of those have a higher cost to them as well. So if you can get the connectors you want for free, it might be a cheaper solution. Yes?
Can you roll up data?
No, not right now. That's the most
Well, you have
frustrating.
multiple locations and you wanted to have it all.
Yeah, you can do that. You can blend your data.
You can blend data, you can't roll up data right now.
Yeah.
Like a group
Um,
by aggregates and stuff like that?
So you can't add from one data source to another data source currently. It won't let you add this one and this one. You can display them together blended, but you can't actually create equations. You can create equations with different fields, but you can't create equations from one data source and another data source and add those two together. So we have a client who wanted to add phone calls from one data source that was coming over, and then they wanted to add goals from Google Analytics, and they wanted to combine the two, create an equation, add the two of them together, and display them as one. And at this time, they can't, but they have added blended data, and I feel like that's going to come soon because that's the next thing everyone's begging for is the ability to add across data source or create equations across data sources. Yes, sir.
Does it give you the ability to have any type of output for specialized reporting, like to a PDF? You already have your dashboards, so can you do an output or export to a customized
Yes, so
report?
they've added, that was a new thing they've added recently, you can export it to PDF. It's really annoying. I'm hoping it's a bug and it's not how they planned it. When you export the PDF, it exports with the default date range. It doesn't export with the date range you put in for that report. I learned that after the client wanted all previous month's reports, and I put them all together, and I didn't pay attention to the date range change. Sent it all to them, and they came back and were like, well, this is just showing last 30 days. And I was like, oh. So yeah, it's one of those they added recently. You can do export PDF, but like I said, the downside is right now it seems to default back to the whatever the default source. Now, granted, you can go change that, like we talked about on here. You can go change that default time on that if you needed to that way, but it is, you can't just select a time and go and, I was trying to pull like 1 month at a time going backwards and I couldn't do that, so. Yes, sir.
If we're connecting to Google Analytics for, site traffic and balance and time on site and things like that, and we've got registered users on that site, can we, instead of seeing the aggregate, can we zero and zoom down into one user if we pass that?
Yes. Actually, I have a more advanced version of this talk that takes a little longer. You can actually add filter controls in as well. So you can add them up there, which allows you to put segments or anything like that, so you can filter down by segments and things like that. I think I may actually have that in my demo slide here. Yeah, see, like here it is, for example. Even though we have date range here, we also have selected, oh, it's not actually turned on in this one, but there it is. So campaign, you can click campaign and I can see all the different campaigns. So that's the filter I decided to add. And I can add multiple filters if I want. I can do campaign, I can do source, I can do all those different things. So as long as it's a field in the analytics, you can filter it, add as a filter inside of here as well.
Wonderful.
All right. Any other questions? Does anybody need to re-see any of those links again? All right.